This resin project is probably my most ambitious so far, but it was so much fun. I have over 2 hours of video to go through, so I'll probably speed up a lot of the footage because who wants to watch the boring stuff like mixing and pouring resin? Let's get to the good stuff. So my resin wave is going to be a free-form project. So I'm not using a mold. I'm just going to pour my resin onto this piece of plastic, and then I'm using this outline on the board as just sort of a guide for my resin. I'm going to use my Let's Resin mini mixer and the Let's Resin Fast Cure for this project. But first, safety first, gloves on, okay? I estimated needing about 10 ounces of resin for this
And
project,
this
so I
is
put it
totally
in my mixer and then
hands-free
set my mixer aside while
and
I
it
kind
is
of gathered my
rechargeable.
thoughts
So I'm going to
together.
set.
I'm going to be using three colors, two blues and a white. This is the KS resin, liquid resin dye in turquoise. And this is an aqua mica powder that my mica powder fairy, Katie Donnelly, sent to me. And then I'm going to be using the ocean white resin pigment paste from Let's Resin.
And you've seen me reuse sticks a lot. These are probably just about needing to be thrown away, but
Once my resin is done mixing, I like to clean my paddle immediately because it's a lot easier to clean wet resin than it is to clean off dried resin. And then I always like to take my stick and just run it around the cup, scrape the edges and scrape the bottom, make sure everything's mixed up nice and evenly. You've seen me do that a lot. That's just a good habit to get into. Now I'm splitting the resin into the two smaller cups, but also leaving a good bit into my bigger cup. I put 4 to 5 drops of the turquoise resin dye in the big cup, and then I mix it really, really well. So you always want to mix really well anytime you're adding anything into resin, whether it's liquid resin dye, mica powder, whatever it is. You want to mix it really, really well. In one of the smaller cups, I'm adding 2 good-sized drops of the ocean white pigment paste. Then in the other cup, I'm adding about a quarter teaspoon of the aqua mica powder. So resin is fluid and it is self-leveling. So I'm using pieces of pool noodle underneath the plastic so that I don't have resin running every which way. And this is going to still give me free form edges without the resin running everywhere. And now for the pouring, I don't really have a plan, but the colors do sort of mimic the ocean. So the darker blue, the turquoise, is like the deeper depths of the ocean, while the aqua mimics the shallower areas closer to shore, while the white is kind of obvious as the foamy waves and then the sea foam. I really didn't have a plan for the white, and I probably in hindsight added a little bit too much white to this project. And I think I was kind of hoping it would form like a bloom, but that didn't really happen. But you'll see in a minute. It worked out okay. And now I'm going to let this sit for about 3 hours to cure a little bit, but just enough to still be
oh
pliable.
my gosh, I almost waited too late. It has firmed up. I waited way too late. I should have checked on it sooner. This is definitely firm. And I have a hole in this plastic sheet that's stuck to my table. So I'm just putting it on another plastic sheet so it doesn't stick to everything. Okay. So I am going to try. Oops. What's wrong with that? All right, let's go this way. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of rough up and stretch this out a little bit. And make it more like a rougher edge or more organic wavy edge. Unfortunately, I'm not able to peel it off. Oh, well, there we go. So kind of like the ripple in the waves, or you know how water sort of splashes up and you have I don't even, like foam, kind of like when you're at the beach and the waves crashing on the shore and it's not a perfect edge. It's sort of, you know, it's that's really pretty. So I want it to be, I don't know if I can stretch it this way. I want it to be more flowy and more natural, like a natural wave. I don't know what that is there. That should flatten out. But yeah, it's totally stuck. There's holes in that plastic bag. I should have checked that. So I'm just sort of teasing out with my silicone spatula, just teasing out some of this resin that's already really set and firmed up. And just roughing it up. So let me show you what I'm doing. If I was able to pull it off of the plastic and stretch it, that would be more ideal, but it's still really sticky and I can't get it off. So I'm just relying on my silicone spatula. Just use the spoon. And I hope this works. So I'm trying to pull and stretch the resin. I don't want there to be so many hard edges on it. And maybe if I had not used a fast cure, now that's kind of cool there. If I had not used a fast cure, I maybe would have gotten a different look. Um, but I just waited too long. But it's okay because look what I'm able to do. So this is really interesting. So I'm pulling the resin with my spoon and then kind of pulling it up. And look what it's creating. It's creating like little ripples in the water. And this is going to be, I think, a really, really neat effect. And it's stretching the resin for sure. Okay, I think that's going to be good.
So to make the wave shape, the only thing that I had that was big enough was my old tea pitcher, and I was so frustrated working with this because the plastic was so slick. The plan was to lay the resin over the tea pitcher and then let it cure overnight, but the plastic kept slipping and I was getting a little frustrated.
Oh, I wish I had a Control Alt Delete for projects.
I finally got it anchored down and left it to cure for a day. So after 24 hours, the resin was cured enough that I could remove the drink pitcher and start to peel away the plastic. If I do this project again, it's a big if, I will definitely wait a little bit longer, let the resin cure for about 2 days, because I did notice as I was working with the wave and like finishing the whole project, it was drooping a little bit. And that's just because the resin was not fully cured. It was still a little bit bendy, a little bit pliable, and it was wanting to droop. Now, once the wave was done, the next part was figuring out what the heck to do with it. I knew I wanted to add this piece of driftwood and then add some turtles to the driftwood, but I didn't really have a turtle that was the right size. I either had one that was too small or one that was too big. I didn't have a turtle that was just the right size. So I decided to make a mold of this stone turtle that I got at a thrift shop. I didn't want to use this turtle. I wanted to make a mold of it. That way I could mold it with resin. I think this is the perfect size. To mold my turtle, I'm going to use the Let's Resin silicone mold making kit. This is a 1-to-1 ratio by weight. However, I'm measuring it by volume because I don't have a scale and I know I need to get one. But I've measured it by volume before and it has worked out fine. Then you just need to pour it in your mold and let it cure. I think it took about 8 hours for the silicone to fully cure, but I had no problem at all removing my 2 little turtles that I used in the mold. I trimmed off the excess silicone with a pair of scissors. You can use an X-Acto knife, but I didn't damage my originals at all. And the new mold was ready for resin almost immediately. I again used the Let's Resin Fast Cure, mixed up a good batch. I don't know how many ounces, honestly. It was probably 4 to 6 ounces. And then I wanted to have the shell of the larger turtle be a little bit more opaque and just be a different color. And so I'm using my trick that I like to use when I'm wanting to fill gaps in larger molds. I'm using these glass beads. Which will give us a nice look in this turtle. And then I colored the resin with Let's Resin liquid resin dye. This is not the color that I wanted. I was looking for a different color, but this is a nice, I think this is fluorescent green, but it's not really fluorescent. It's more of like a sea green, which is perfect. It matches the beads exactly. So I used that for the bigger turtle, and then I added a couple of drops of blue for the smaller turtle because I didn't want to have two turtles of the same color, if that makes sense. Make sure you squish all the air bubbles out. Now it's time to put this whole thing together. I used hot glue to keep the driftwood in place, and then I added more glass beads to the resin in my cup just to add volume. Then I poured this in between the wave and the driftwood to really connect the two together. The beads are cute and they also serve as connectors in the resin, kind of like pegs on Lego pieces. This method actually worked perfectly and connected everything together.
So let's see how this works. Make sure I don't break the tail. Well, that was easy. I don't want to break his head off either. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oops. Actually, not bad. Oh my God, look at that. Look at how cute. Okay, one little bubble in his in one of his flippers, but oh my God, this is so cute. Look at that. He's got a smiley face. I'm happy with that. So let's see if this one worked, which I'm sure it did. I cut his tail off, but this one didn't have a tail either, and I probably should have gotten one that did have a tail, but that's okay. It's just going to be a tailless turtle. Oh yeah, did okay. I messed up right here and didn't get resin underneath the bubble or underneath the bead, but that's okay. I am not upset. I did end up making a few extra bonus turtles too. Then I used hot glue to kind of connect everything together. And I only use the hot glue just to keep things in place because I am going to add some Mod Podge and also some resin as a top coat to really get everything nice and secure and cohesive. So the hot glue is just for placement. I'm using different shells that I have. I'm using, rocks, a little bit everything, other molds that I've made. Over the last couple of months because, always have a spare mold handy in case I need to use up leftover resin. Nothing goes to waste in this. There are a lot of gaps in between the turtles and the shells, but I have a wild idea to fill those gaps. So I'm using my mermaid trash. Now, mermaid trash, if you don't know what it is, you can buy it from me in my Etsy shop. I have a link below. But if you don't know what it is, it's just a mixture of sand, crushed shells, glitter, little pieces of glass, stones. It's a mixture of a lot of things. So I have a little bit in the cup. I don't really need that much. And then I'm going to pour in a little bit of Mod Podge, straight Mod Podge, and then just a tiny, tiny little bit of water just to mix everything together. You can use a 1-to-1 Mod Podge to water ratio, but I think that's going to be a little bit too runny for this project. What the Mod Podge does
is it connects all the pieces of that mermaid trash together, and then it's kind of paste, it's like a paste, it's kind of like joint compound or a mortar or grout that you use for tile. So that's what I'm using it for. I'm using it as a grout to hold all those pieces together. You'll be surprised. It's a little bit wonky, a little bit unlevel, but I'm going to fix that later. I let the Mod Podge layer dry, and I'm telling you, this is not a fast project. This took me a full week to make from start to finish, okay? I'm using the Let's Resin Fast Cure again, and I'm mixing up a whole bunch because I am going to use it on another project. So I've got my silicone mat there just to catch any drips, and then I'm just gonna drizzle the resin all over that beach area. I'm gonna get it into all those little gaps, every little crack and crevice. And then guess what? This needs to sit overnight too. So I'm telling you, this is not a quick project, but I absolutely love it. This was so, so worth it.
So the bottom is a little bit uneven. I'm going to sand this off on my belt sander outside. And then I've got some cork. I have some self-adhesive cork coming from Amazon that I'm going to use. I'm going to cut a piece to fit over the bottom, and then that's going to keep this from sliding around and it'll keep it from scratching. But I absolutely love this. Look at how cute this is. I don't know if you can see it up close. I'm gonna probably take it to the beach and show y'all on the beach how cute it is. But I love it. I love how this turned out. Look at how cute this is. You got all the little turtles up in here coming up on the beach, riding the wave. I love it. I love how this turned out. And it's very sturdy. It's not heavy at all. I love it.